And straight away the pace was fast and furious, led by Malcolm Wilson in the Audi Quattro. But through the first Bellahouston stage, he and Mats Johnson were still far behind the Quattro of Hannu Mikkola. George Marshall was a full 20 seconds slower than Mikkola through the park, but Dougie Riech set a good early pace. In an unaccustomed hired Toyota, current Scottish champion Jimmy Fleming, and an unusual form of transport for Ken Wood, whose big Rover was also ineligible. Tom Muir set a good time through Bellahouston, but he was to have problems later on. Icelander Bragason was closely followed by Wilson Girvan, starting well on what was to be his most successful Scottish. And in the diminutive Talbot Samba, Colin Valentine. In the Bromac Hella Opel, Jim Fleming and Roger McFarlane got off to a bad start. A fuel pipe came detached, leaving the engine firing on only 2 cylinders, and they finished the stage with a puncture. On to the rest and be thankful, and there were hazards for the spectators as well as the competitors. Russell Brooks had moved up to second place, just 3 seconds behind Mikkola. In the other Quattro, Wilson was third, getting the most out of his machine and back on form after a less than successful year. Ian Tilk had his problems on the uncertain tarmac, which also proved to be a stiff test for others early in the event. Late evening in the Knapdale Forest, the dry conditions were testing the competitors to the limit. Jim McRae had recaptured second place in his Opel Manta, but the lingering dust clouds were making visibility bad for the later runners. By the rest halt at Fort William, Jim Fleming had time to reflect on the first leg.
Get on better now, the fair old problem to start with. What happened? Just about everything. For the start, a puncture in the first stage, going into the first stage. Halfway through it, the fuel line fell off one of the carbs, and we got through the 2 cylinders. We got that mended, and then the gearbox started playing up. We were jumping out first, third, and fifth. Well, we're getting better since then.
Do you think you're going to manage to complete it?
Oh, yeah, aye.
What pedaling on? What position are you in just now?
I've no idea, I really don't know. We were lying about 20th, I think, but I don't know how. We were a wee bit slow, we've been getting caught up in the dust. We're getting, it's a bit frightening now.
Driving blind, are you?
Absolutely, yeah. No idea where we're going. We're trying to take an extra minute to let us settle, but they'll not let us do that. So we'll just keep plodding on.
Rally drivers are noted for their improvisation, including Francis Tuthill after losing the use of his door in a brush with the undergrowth. And Dougie Riech had problems too.
We sheared a caliper, it didn't come off the axle, but it broke it in half. And 3 miles into Menards, we did the whole of Menard, no brakes, the whole of Knapdale before service to get any brakes. Dropped about a minute and a half. Then we got puncture in the next one, and that was my fault. Came round a gate too hard and put it in the ditch. Oh, it's just been crazy, right? Absolutely crazy. Spotlights keep blowing fuses, can't see where we're going. Catching cars and kind of seeing the dust. It's great fun, though. It's still going, you know. Must be the first time I've reached Fort William in a Scottish in my life.
By early morning, Donald Heggie had dropped right down the field after his accelerator cable snapped, but he was fighting back to hold on to vital Scottish Championship points. While a lack of concentration by John Hockland in the Skoda led to what could have been a disastrous mistake. Wilson Girvan, though, was having an almost trouble-free drive and had moved up to 15th overall. And Jim Fleming continued his steady drive, lying just over a minute behind. Towards the breakfast halt in Inverness and on the Odd Hill stage high above the Highland capital, Jim McRae had dropped to 4th place, with teammate Russell Brooks having taken over number 2 behind Mikola. Others were having problems, not least the World of Sport film crew caught in the dust, while Tim Bryce managed to pick up some of the undergrowth on his way, but just as easily managed to lose it again. Wilson Girvan, now on home ground, continued to improve his position, while Jim Fleming lay 17th equal with his Scottish champion namesake, Jimmy. Perthshire and the notorious Erechty stage, and one of the first victims with a rear puncture, Per Eklund. But Donald Heggie was fighting back and already creeping up the field. As the remaining competitors made their way down the stage, high above Loch Tummel, Mikola had established a clear lead. The Bromag Hella Opel was going well and had moved up another place, and the car was in good shape. Which is more than can be said for the Opel of Tom Muir. Jimmy Fleming was having a trouble-free run, but soaring away into a seemingly unassailable lead, world champion Mikola made the most of his four-wheel drive advantage as he cruised through the Ladywell stage in the hills around Dunkeld. Meanwhile, in Class 7 there was a separate battle going on with the escorts of Tilk and Bragison. They were being led by Donald Heggie and the Opel of Borders farmer Jim Fleming, now also carrying the support of General Motors dealers Clellans of Peebles. Trailing behind in the same class the escort of Gordon Smith. And problems for some others after 25 hours of driving. Ken Wood, relegated to spectating on Monday morning, and about to join him with broken suspension, Malcolm Wilson. No such problems though for Jim Fleming. The overnight halt had revived him, and through his home territory he continued to climb the field. And Jimmy Fleming wasn't far behind. At one of the service halts, Ivor Clark checked his Volvo.
Dice with Jimmy Fleming now. It's been going well. Quite happy with the car now. Well, I'm saying now, I mean, I've been happy all the time, but we're able to try harder now, you know, when we know that it's going to hold together.
How many miles had this car done before you started this event?
None. Seriously, I hadn't done a competitive mile or tested or anything. We just had literally got it finished just before the event. We're still working on it at 4 o'clock in the morning before the event. Great. I mean, absolutely brilliant. Just hope it keeps going.
And while Donald Heggie's service crew worked hard, Jim Fleming was already back on the road.
Get on, Jim.
Well, not too bad. It's been good fun this morning. Home stages, but wee problem in one of them, the top of the stick broke off of the air, but other than that, it's fine. A lot of dust, though. A lot of dust.
You catching anybody?
Trying hard. We're on about a par with Colin Valentine. So we were behind him yesterday, so we must be improving a wee bit.
We'll let you pedal on then.
Thanks, then. Cheers.
Through Castle Lower, Wilson Girvan, lying 10th, was being caught by Fleming's Opel. And Colin Valentine was also finding him hard on his heels. By the special stage through A Forest, Girvan was being beaten by the Bromag Opel, which had climbed from 47th place on the first stage to a position within the top 10. But just when everything was going his way, disaster struck in mid-Monday evening, when the car left the road in the Dalbeattie Forest. It came to rest well off the road and well out of the rally, leaving Mikola well on his way to winning the Scottish for the second time at the wheel of a four-wheel drive machine. As the world champion celebrated his win, the Bromag Hella team were already making their plans for their next big test, the RAC Rally in November.